Hey everybody, welcome to Leon's Chainsaw Parts and Repair. It is 6:30 on Saturday morning. It got below 60 degrees last night. Not much. 59. I'll take it. I would love to make some progress on Garrett's 460. So let's try to get back to that before it gets miserable in the garage. I can even turn the fan down so that we don't have so much noise in the background. Okay. So if you haven't watched the earlier videos in this series, I would recommend that you go do that first. At least skim through them so that you kind of have an idea of why we are where we're at here with it exploded all over the bench. Garrett was able to source all OEM parts, crank, piston, cylinder, all of that stuff. Some of that had already been sent to me. But not the crankshaft and the seals and all that stuff. When we got this thing torn down, obviously we realized, hey, this is a little more than we thought, hoped, I guess. So, I am leaving the old cylinder seals in place, gaskets, whatever you want to call those, for as long as possible, just so that I can get the new ones out and make sure I don't do anything silly. But these don't appear to be anything magical. Okay, crankcase is clean. Alright, there is a big and small side. Other than that, I think that's what's going to dictate how those go in. So let's peel one of these out. Okay, that is definitely not adhered in place. And nor did I find any mention on the web of that being Husqvarna's preferred way of doing this. So I'm not going to. I'm just going to clean that out. Do the same on the other side. It's funny, these little gaskets, seals, whatever you want to call them, they mimic a lot of the old paper cylinder gaskets where they're thinner on one side than the other. So in theory, those ought to just set in place and stay in place. Now since they haven't ever been torqued down, yeah, well, I'm going to have to watch these bastards. They've never been torqued down, so they're not shroomed out, you know what I mean? I do not want one of those popping out. That would probably be a real irritant. That one lays in a little better. But they've got a little flanged end there. See that? So you've got to make sure that that is down in the crankcase. You don't want that up where it's going to get compressed, because that'll give you a false seal, which in turn probably means no seal. Alright, let's dig into our box of good stuff. There's the new crankshaft. And this comes pre-assembled. Okay. What are we going to need to reuse? We have to get the flywheel key out of the old one. I'll worry about that later. I think the biggest thing is I want to get the piston installed before dropping it down in there. Now, do we have a new wrist pin bearing? Yes, we do. I'm not joking, folks. You guys watch me do circlips. You guys have watched me do a bazillion home lights, and those I am ultra familiar with, or at least most of them. Something like this, where I've had it apart for, well, at least a month now, I get a little worried. Not that I'm not going to be able to put it back together, but it won't be a smooth, seamless operation. There'll probably be a lot of stuff from me along the lines of, hey, let me pause and go look at the video, you know, see how something came apart. It was funny on whichever video when I was taking the carb off, and I said, oh crap, where'd that little piece of linkage come from? As I was editing the video, it was very clear where that little piece of linkage came from. Now, I would assume that the arrow is pointing to the front of the saw. Yes, that it is. Because that would keep the anti-rotation pin back away from the muffler port. Right there. Okay. Let's see if we can get our wrist pin out. Nothing magical here. I've just put the new bearing in. I do think, for grins, I could do it afterwards, but I think I'm going to just get a little oil working around in here. And I don't need to go crazy, because it'll just smoke like the devil on startup, but do want everything to be good and lubricated. Had a needle that was just thinking about exiting that little cage, which we don't want. Alright, there's the flywheel side of the crankshaft. Arrow pointing forward. Let's see if I can press this pin through without any mechanical help. Yes. Almost. Alright. You get out of my way. I'm going to go ahead and put one of these circlips in on this side so that we can't accidentally go too far. Assuming that I can get into the package. Without ripping it apart to the point where I fling these across the garage. That would be stupid. Some stuff they have is perfectly reasonable to use. Some stuff is not. Oh, come on, baby. Man, those are stiff. That's going to be fun. That's interesting. And I've heard horror stories about guys not getting one of these just right and then having it come loose on your test run and wiping out hundreds of dollars worth of parts. And I'll be honest, I don't want to be that guy. No, thank you. There we go. That wrist pin is actually very easy to work with. It moves in here fairly easily. Okay, you're so close. What it likes to do is not go down in the back here. And I'm in danger of firing this thing across the garage. Very much so. Damn it. You just... Son of a bitch. Off my face and across the garage. Take two. Not in the mood to do that very many times today. Okay. Alright. Theory. Should be able to set this thing in place. But what am I... Okay. That activator for the oil pump is separate. Okay. Wow. It's hard for me to believe that it was that easy to set in place, but everything looks quite reasonable. The seals are all up against the crankshaft seals, the cylinder gaskets. They have not popped out of their grooves. Everything should go. I say, when something goes that easily, I go, whoa, what'd I do wrong? Okay, this new cylinder has a mite little bit of dust in it. So let's deal with that. It's not a lot. And it's probably nothing that would actually hurt it. But if you think I'm taking that chance with somebody else's saw, nope. I don't think so. Alright. I'm wondering... Hey, there's my cylinder screws. I was also wondering about those. And it looks like I'll have to reuse the decomp valve. And I still need to pull that intake boot off, and that's what I was wondering if I can do that. And I think I can. I hope I don't regret not doing it now. Guess we'll find out if I end up regretting not doing that right now. Okay. Thread locker. That was something Garrett was very clear with me on. He wanted thread locker on literally every single screw that is metal to metal on this thing. So I will respect those wishes. I am not forgetting anything here, I don't think. Alright, oil in the cylinder. Pre-lube this. Oil on the piston. Okay. Yep, that looks pretty good. Need a ring compressor now. This is probably one of those in-between sizes. It is. It'll be slightly awkward. Whatever. That's almost a tapered. Well, this, I can't use a ring compressor with that style. I just have to center it up. And apparently, the taper on the cylinder here is going to compress it for me. Let's see how that goes. would have preferred not to move the crankshaft, but it did. Glad I'm looking. This little seal popped up. Bastard. Damn it. I'm sure this isn't as big a pain in the ass as I'm making it out to be, but what do you know? Alright. Down we go. Well, that has sat down. Can it really be that easy? I suppose it can. And those had Loctite on them from the factory. I can see a little residue way up high on the threads. That's interesting. Alright. Okay. Remember, especially when it's in liquid form, this stuff can blast out all at once, and you can lose a whole not so cheap tube all over your bench. Okay. If I remember right, I was worried. Those are not, the heads are clean, but I always worry about these ball ends. So, let's go back to the right size. The redneck hillbilly way. And we'll use what I can find. Hell, I sure would like to know where my smaller crescent wrench walked away to. You guys have heard me on the channel before blame one of my kids for missing tools. Now, I got blamed when I was a kid too, and when I was really young it was true. As I got older, it was just my dad misplacing stuff the vast majority of the time. But this little tuning screwdriver I found in Miss Young Caitlin Rose's room not long ago, and she had to admit to that. So I'm not always crazy, only half. Anyway, alright. That is about how much it took to get these loose. So that's what they're going to get going back. And holding this from the front with the bumper spike installed guarantees you'll have some teeth marks in your hand. But I didn't want to disassemble any more of this thing than I had to, because then I'd have to remember how to put it back together. Alright, we're already at a massive win point for me, but I'm going to have to start remembering how everything went together. I know we got it apart With the flywheel and the clutch still installed, those were some of the last things that I took off. So I'm going to need to get this old flywheel. There is no flywheel key. There is. It's cast into the flywheel. See, that's the kind of crap I am going to forget relentlessly today. Okay. Bring some more junk into the bench here and get rid of some junk at a certain point, like that old piston and crankshaft. Guess before we go any further, no, I can get to those. We'll get the flywheel and some of this stuff reassembled, excuse me, and then we'll come back to getting the intake off of that old cylinder. Okay. Memory serves, that is the nut. Yes. And since this is a Husqvarna, I am relatively certain that the 13mm socket that's not where it belongs is out here on the bench somewhere from the disassembly. All right. Probably jumping the gun on this, but it would feel very good to me to know that I have everything in place here. This insulation's very soft, and I don't know if that means because it's just pliable or if that's the nature of wire insulation that's made out of recycled food products. Not everybody follows automotive stuff. I do, partly because of my job, partly just because I'm interested. And I believe it was Nissan, in fact I'm certain it was, eventually admitted that some of their wire was sourced from places that do use recycled food product containers. We found that out as we were wondering why in the world rats were getting into some of our little Nissan vans at work and eating the wiring harnesses, building nests. Guess there's no question now why they're doing that. Alright. This is a point where I almost have to go back to a video. But in reality, an oil pump shouldn't be, there we go, that difficult. The only question is, should I put that on first? And the answer is yes, I should have. We're doing this a lot today. I can guarantee that to you folks. Alright, that pump, that all looks good. I'm not going to mess with what I don't think I need to mess with. Alright, there we go. So there should be a little screw about like that that holds that in place. Let's see if that threads in easily. Look at that. Okay. And that's the activator style. So that goes like that. There is our drier than a popcorn fart bearing. I'm not a big fan of that. That doesn't look the hottest. Doesn't look damaged. Where the hell? Right in front of me. But there's a little bit of rust residue. And I don't like that. So, not damaging any of the needles, we're just going to let WD-40 do what WD-40 does, which is dissolve rust. There we go. Much better. Much better. Okay. Grease that up. If we can button this up over here, we can get down to some meat and potatoes of this saw. There she goes. And if I'm remembering right, there was no thrust washer. This just threads down until it stops. That appears to be, correct. Okay. That little tool I will be holding on to. I am virtually certain that that'll also work with a lot of the later model pull-in clutches. Beautiful. I'm sure I could have made a tool, but it was a hell of a lot easier to buy it. And while there is a satisfaction into making something yourself, at a certain point you just want to get something done and not have to F around with it. And that's kind of where I am at. So if I really want to clear some room on the bench, we'll go ahead and drop this muffler in place, which may use the same screw size that I just, and that does. Okay, so let me punch those back through. We'll get some Loctite on them. You're making a mess. Any more than you have to. That's going to clear some nice space on the bench. Okay. Nice and oily on the side of the piston. Looks good. Clear this bucking. Ah! You dipstick. I think we're there. Go down smooth. Pretty sure I felt all those grab. Oh yeah. Okay. Well, I've probably put off the inevitable about as long as I can. I'm going to have to pull that old intake and give it a little cleany, because that looks like she's at. And I'm going to assess. That impulse hose is still very, very pliable. Yeah. I can say, I don't know what happened to this saw, what caused its issues, but it didn't have much time on it. That's clear. I mean, judging by the wear on the sprocket, assuming that's original, and I believe it is, the saw couldn't have run for more than an hour, maybe two. And I doubt it was working hard. Okay. Oh man, I hope that's not a gasket. No, that's a formed rubber assembly. Okay. Very good. Very good. I still want to clean it out. Can't throw that just yet. We need to get that decomp valve out. Well, alrighty then. That's right. You go through there. Come on, you can do it. Sucker. There we go. Yeah, so the intake boot itself is the seal. So as long as it doesn't tear as it comes up, and I don't see anywhere that it tore, just keep it nice and clean as we put it back on. Alright, now that is the one thing that's a little more difficult, so I've got to get that impulse hose hooked up. So in hindsight, doing this before bolting the cylinder down probably would be the best. Because now I'm going to fight with these stupid hoses being in my way. So, what do you know? And I can barely see down in there. So, I'll tell you what I know. Is that reattaching the hose out here, it's going to be a hell of a lot easier than what I'm doing right now. God dang it. Yeah, this was a strategic error. Don't do this. There it goes. I mean, that could have been worse. Let's be real. It could have been. But my guess is the pros wouldn't do it this way, and I'm not still convinced that I can. This is turning into a nuisance. Alright, before I forget, I'm going to hook that primer line back up. So at least remember where the hell it goes. And that has to sit underneath that intake boot. Or not. Yes, you do. You have to. Okay. That was a lot of fiddle farting around. And if I remember right, the carburetor's got to go on before. God, there's a lot of crap here. Carburetor's got to go on before the throttle handle. And this may be a point where I've got to go back and review things. But let me take a peeksy-poo and see if I can get some of this to make sense. Again, the intake boot itself is the carburetor gasket. Those must... no, those are ISO. Those must be the carburetor screws. That's the other primer line. That's the fuel hose. I'm assuming I can get to that with this in place. And this is that air snorkel thing. If I don't have that upside down. I don't even see a direction on it. But if there is one, I'm certain I will find out. There we go. Nothing like putting glass on top of a washing machine. Thanks, kids. Okay. So we've got the throttle linkage that, if I recall, just sits in there some way. How does this ever make sense? It doesn't like that. I am pretty sure that is how that sits in there. Alright, I'm going to get this fuel hose hooked up before I lose the ability to do that. And this lower primer. Or purge, whatever you want to call it. Purge technically is more accurate. Alright. I'm losing track of what's what. I actually don't think that's the right screw for right there, but I don't remember. And that's unfortunate. That has to be the right screw, as does that. But I probably don't want to put those in yet, since we still have this ridiculous thing. So, let me back the wagon up a little bit here. I need to get these wires back through. Alright. This is going to suck. I remember it sucked coming apart. Pretty sure that's going to connect there. This I can't remember. Oh, shit. Oh, dear. Alright, well, let's see, I'm virtually certain it's going to have to be some version of that. And I think I'll still be able to figure out that linkage to the air valve once this is in place. So the ultimate question is, should that be going over or under this? And I don't think it can go under. And does that live in there? Like I bet it. Ah, folks, it's been too long since I did this. Way too long. That is not a combo, it's just an on-off. So I don't know. Well, it has to go in there. Must slip on that. There's a groove under here and a groove in the top of the choke. So I'm assuming, or a ledge right there, so it must go up in there. That's the only thing that makes any sense to me. All this plastic, if I reef too hard on something, I know what I could do. And I don't want to do that. Okay. Oh. Okay. So I've got one side started in the isolator here. What do you say we go for broke and I get the other side going without breaking it? Oh, there she is. So now I find out if I guessed right or wrong on this throttle rod. And I'm going to say I guessed right. And I don't like guessing on this kind of stuff. Okay, I can get to that. I can get to that. And now all of a sudden that looks so much more correct. Eh? That's what I'm reduced to right now, is grunting. It's either going to be, or, shit. That's where we're at. Start these, because I don't want to cut new threads into that. And thus far, that appears right. Like I say, I probably made more out of this than I needed to in my mind, but... Alright, that is just sticking out. I definitely didn't cut new threads, but... I'm surprised those screws aren't 1/8 of an inch shorter. And I don't have anything else laying around here. Those have to be the right ones. Okie dokie, hokey pokey. Let's tighten the lower ones, the actual important ones, before I get distracted here. Okay. I mean, I really think that's it. So the switch setup, obviously that connects right there, the way it's heat shrunk to the switch wire, which means this must just slide right in. And I vaguely remember that. Make you remember thinking, how the hell am I going to get that back in there without making a mess? Is that really it? I think it is. Choke works, on-off works. This is getting a little scary. Those must be all the isolators. Huh. Still feel like there's something I'm forgetting or missing here, but I don't know. Okay. Let's see if we can wrap up the throttle bullcrap. Clean this off. So clearly that's going to sit right there. So we'll just set you where we believe you need to go, which is right there. And that can just kind of live. I think this was the retainer. This is the part that I saw where it fell out of on the video. I'm going to figure out how this little retainer clip is going to go. I wonder if it... Oh, okay, I see now, I think. I may have this on the wrong side of this valve. That looks like that rod, this retainer is supposed to go in or over the rod. Okay. Thank God for old video, right? Makes sense once you see it. So this installs from the back up here on the air valve, and then you rotate it into its place here, and then this is going to install facing so it can snap downward, but you need to get it in front of the actual rod there. So I'm going to give myself enough room to work. Snap it in, and then this comes down, and this hole right here, there's a tab on the back. Pull that out and snap it in right there. That's what prevents the throttle rod from coming out, and that was a piece I was not clear on. And it also allows you to open the throttle maybe halfway before you get to this air valve, and it just goes full tilt boogie on you. So far that's the only major thing that I've forgotten. I guess that's sort of okay, I guess. I don't know. Tired of looking at this old cylinder. We're going to take that decomp valve out. And I wonder what, if anything, Husqvarna did to seal this up. Oh, just a compression ring. Alright. Now that valve has some crapola and some rustola. It doesn't appear to necessarily be on the seat itself. It appears to just be carbon. I am going to lightly, with the valve closed, wire wheel that off. Yeah. I feel better about that. The sealing washer's not all torn up. I think we can use it again. I am impressed. This has all been very... The new parts from Husqvarna have been very high quality and there have been no issues whatsoever. I don't do builds the way a lot of people do. I don't do porting and all that stuff. So I don't mess around with the highway cylinders and all that other stuff that's out there. You guys will have to tell me in the comments if you've found the level of quality out of those that I'm seeing here, or if that's not the case. I'm going to grab the throttle handle and see if I can make sense of what we've got left. As it's been a hot minute since I had this apart. And that's a limiter. Those are just isolators. That one's in place, that one's in place, and that one's off. Sure wish I remembered how this all went together. But we know where it has to end up. So sooner or later, I'm going to get it right. It's just how much cussing is there in the meantime. That's going to go up in there. But I got to get that throttle in place. That limiter's got to go through that hole in the crankcase. I may be making way more of this than I need to. This may go together easily. But I got to get that stinking throttle rod where it belongs. So perhaps I shouldn't have snapped it in already. I may regret this, but what happens if I just take that out and wait till the last minute to put it in? You think there's room? Maybe that's why it's designed that way. I mean, that's in place right there. You guys remember, I think, or if you don't, go back to the video, how much fighting and cussing I did to get that apart, if it was that simple. But I'm also still not clear on where that last isolator is going to go. So let me get a couple secured into, not secured, started here. And then we'll see what it is I'm missing. It's the cylinder, right up there. That's where it's got to go. And I'm certain I'd have to install it before I do this. So I'm glad I didn't go a hell of a lot further. And that was the other thing I got started this morning, was the laundry for the trailer. It's only a couple weeks before we head out for, well, a couple weeks. And I don't like to go too many camping trips without cleaning the sheets on the bed. Especially not in the summer. Okay, I want a better bite than that. And that looks pretty good. Alright, let's give this another go around. And I'm going to hope that my theory on the throttle rod is correct. So, I am not missing a screw. Well, no, I am. Nope, that one. Okay. Alright. I'm getting there, folks. I'm getting there. That went in. Now's the big test. Can I get the throttle rod down where it belongs? Please be a yes. Oh, look at that. Look at that, folks. Alright, I'll take back all those bad things I said. Look at that. Wouldn't that have been nice for me to know when I was taking it apart? Boom shakalaka. Right there. Well, alrighty then. Let's get these isolators tight before I forget. Guess because they're plastic, you don't really need to worry about them backing off. Whew! That was one thing we never sourced, was a new spark plug. That's interesting. Of all the things. And I don't know what a Husqvarna HQT-1 translates to. I know what it looks like. And what I could get away with in all likelihood. You guys laugh. You probably already know what I'm doing. Looks an awful lot like a Champion CJ6. Just saying. Awful close. The reach is a little whoop, dummy. I was out of the screen, sorry. This one reaches a little bit further, so that's not the ultimate answer. But this plug looks like crap. This is a Denso plug. And I don't know what that came out of, but that's an exact match for this, and it's almost brand new. I will probably use that. See the rust and build up and shit on that? I don't like that. But we'll come back to that in a minute. I still need to blow that air filter out a little bit. It's got some fines in it. But what I want to do is get the starter on. Wires are good. Oh. I crisscrossed those in here. Wires are not good. Would it have hurt anything? Yeah, probably not. But it doesn't take me any time at all to make them right. Okie dokie. Did you drop? No, you did. That air screen was being cantankerous. Okay. Just for grins, let's take a peek at what our compression is going to be in this thing. Now it should, after break-in, have better cold compression than what we measure right now. But just to say that we did, let's see what she'll generate right now. Alright. Yeah, I can't do. We'll have to do closed throttle. Whatever. And I also don't want to get zapped by accident. That'll be enough. 156. Now granted, that's got all the break-in oil in it, but that piston ring has not seated to the cylinder yet. So I would expect that to go up a little bit. But 150 on a saw this size is more than adequate to run exactly the way it was designed to run, so I'm totally happy with that. All right. I need to take a break because I'm going to need to mix up some fresh 50 to 1 for this, which means I've got to go to gas station because I am clean out of non-ethanol fuel, and that is one bonus of living in Oregon. We have stations that sell dedicated, they have a pump that is 100% dedicated to non-ethanol fuel at select stations, and I happen to have one just up the road. So my 2-stroke and most of my 4-stroke stuff never sees ethanol. And I'm happy. Let's take a break. When we come back, I'll have that fuel. We'll use that Denso plug. I hate those things. Haven't exactly had the best of luck with them, but it would at least allow us to break this saw in while I order a Husqvarna plug. I think that's what we'll do. We'll come back. All right, let's fuel this pig up. Good enough. I'm not going to burn through all of that, but I'll burn through enough of it. Tough thing with a saw that's been seized is you don't know. In this case, I don't know if it was during operation or from sitting. I'm more inclined to believe it was from sitting, but it leads me to just question where the carburetor will be set on this. I'm hoping that it's still at factory settings and I won't have to fiddle fart around with it. If I do, I do. That's no giant deal. But, yeah. Alright. For the sake of heat control, we are going to put this cylinder shroud on. Except, dummy, I still need to get the air filter on. And it's actually a pretty nice style of air filter. Even though it's a plastic housing, you've got some true felt down in there. I believe, I don't know, I prefer the felt style filters to the the mesh screen. Alright, where's your group? There it is. Perfect. Now let's fight this thing into place. And figure out what I don't have lined up just, there it is. Just 100% perfect. You guys have no idea how happy I am to have this damn saw looking like this. The only thing that'll be making me happier is if it starts and runs easily and no bullshit, so that I can get it back to Garrett. And off my workbench, to be real blunt. There we go. Very nice. Alright. We're going to primer the bulb this. Doesn't say how many times. There's fuel. Again, you're not priming the engine, you're just purging all the air out of the carburetor. That's got to be enough. I think, for the sake of ease, I want to go ahead and mount this to my vise right now. That way, if I get it, not if, when we get it running, I can just leave it here and not have to worry about the thing trying to rattle off the bench. I can just let it sit here. If it has any residual oil in the oil system, it can just puke all over the pig mat and I won't give a big giant rip. You know what I mean? And this is like most other saws, it would eventually vibrate off the bench. Not exactly what I have in mind, you know what I mean? Alright. Good enough. This is zoomed out as best I can get it. That's within frame. I think I can crank that way. I think we're ready to try and start this thing. I'm not going to give it any trigger. That's got to be a good sign. Idle is good and consistent. I can smell the assembly oil burning off, but there's not much left. I'm going to let this go for about half an hour. We'll come back. Well, it might be hard to believe, but this thing's been idling for almost 20 minutes now. It's definitely loaded up, but it hasn't died. Okay. Whew. I couldn't deal with much more exhaust being here in the garage while I was trying to work. Yeah. Not bad. Not bad at all. Let me kick this fan down a little bit. There we go. Okay. So, what do we know? Well, we know it'll idle for 20 minutes. I'm not going to send it to a full rev with that fresh stuff on there. I would like a bar and a chain on it, doing some wood cutting. I am completely comfortable with the way it started, the way it idled. There are no air leaks. I am certain of that. The way it loaded up, there are no air leaks. So, if anything, it's tuned a little rich for where I'm at right now with the atmospheric conditions that I have right now. I'm not touching it. Garrett, when you get it back, if you feel the need to lean it out just a tiny bit on the low side, cool. I mean, it should be adjusted to your elevation and your climate. But I'm super, super happy with the way it sounds, the way it performs. It would restart right now. I mean, the idle's nice and low, okay? You getting that burble and pop. I mean, it's low. They've got it set really stinking low, and it holds it. That's a sign of a good tight saw. So, you guys know me. This will sit for give or take a week, and then I will do it one more time and air it out. My goal is to get this shipped back to Garrett before I leave for camping August 3rd. I think that's that Sunday. I want this to be in the old Boys and Browns van before I leave for that. So, it's been a while. Thanks for sticking with the program here. And if you haven't, still, even after watching this, if you haven't seen the other two videos, go check them out. Even if you're fast forwarding through. I've got them chapter marked pretty well. I'll try to do the same thing on this. Yeah. What we found was interesting. Not something I was expecting, especially not in a modern saw. Generally, if somebody says it won't turn over, I expect to see a piston that's just scored to the moon. This one appeared to be moisture damage. So, what can I say? Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you guys on the next video.